Hello everyone, it's Laffy Traffy. Chapter 1024 of One Piece, Nobody Important, is out, and now we are going to talk about it, go a little bit more in depth. If you missed my reaction, feel free to go check that out. There was a lot going on, such an awesome chapter. We have Beppo. I mean, do I need to say more? This chapter was a 10 out of 10 because Beppo was in it. I mean, come on. But no, the reason this chapter was so great goes far beyond that. We get a flashback that gives a little bit more background to our future Straw Hat and our second Straw Hat. You know, just gonna put that out there. Yamato for Straw Hat. If it's your first time here, make sure you subscribe and leave a like, it helps out a lot, and comment below what your favorite part of this chapter was and what your impressions were of this chapter. What do you think, you know, certain characters, how they're gonna tie into the story. We get into a lot, but let's start from the beginning as we get into my review of chapter 1024 of One Piece, Nobody Important. Such a great title, and we'll see why later. So the chapter starts off with, of course, God D. Usopp raining down terror from his ultimate conqueror's haki because, you know, weaker men can't help but faint in front of his mighty presence. That's probably what's gonna happen in the future now that we get this, but no, Usopp is just chilling there and pretending that he has Conqueror's haki because there's some residual from Big Mom who's fighting on the floor. But I mean, does this confirm that Usopp's going to get Conqueror's haki? It's Usopp and everything he says comes true, even if it's a lie. Especially when it's a lie. So we'll just have to wait and see if the mighty god gets the ability worthy of a god. I'm honestly surprised that he hasn't unlocked that already. Unfortunately though, we'll have to wait for that particular reveal when everyone finally realizes that Usopp has Conqueror's haki, because of course he does. And so until then, we see that, like I said, the residual effects of Big Mom's Conqueror's haki is resonating across the entire floor that she's fighting on. And might I point out that if she's using Conqueror's haki to that extent, to that extreme, that it's resonating all the way over here, what's going on with the fight? That sounds like a juicy fight that Law and Kid are getting up to against Big Mom. And if that wasn't enough of a tease talking about Big Mom's haki, then we also get little bits of the Heart Pirates and the Kid Pirates fighting against random beast pirates and, you know, making sure that their presence is known on this raid and, you know, doing something. So we see Beppo, Sachi, and Penguin with Frankie, and then we see the Kid Pirates where we see I'm really interested in who that member is for the Kid Pirates. I'm assuming because they're attacking a beast pirate that they're a member of the Kid Pirates, but it's like a little girl or a little old lady, and I'm very interested as she's just biting a beast pirate. So I really want to know more information about that. But regardless, we get the Heart Pirates, we get Big Mom, and we get the Kid Pirates, so I'm hoping that we get some action with this fight next chapter, because we don't get it this chapter. I was really, you know, this was all pointing towards some action for this chapter, but unfortunately we didn't get that. What we did get was, okay, not really complaining. But moving on, we get some action from the Straw Hats as they're trying to meet up and choose a location where they can all reunite after their fights as everything's on fire. There's chaos with the beast pirates running everywhere, but the whole of Onigashima is going up in flames right now due to Black Maria, King probably. Heat is probably not helping exactly either. So the whole place is on fire. That's my point. There's a lot of fire going on. And we see Brook is, he mentions getting cremated. I don't know if that's going to change in the official translation. Maybe we'll change that. But he talks about how he's going to get cremated because he's on fire as he's running with Robin. And Robin looks so lovely. Of course, it's Robin. But she's very content. She's very confident that Brook will keep her safe. However, because of story, I'm not 100% convinced that Robin is in the clear yet, because the fact that we see the Mary spying in on her when she collapses from her fight was not a coincidence. And the Cypher Pol agents 100% know what is happening with Robin right now, that she's weakened, and, you know, this wasn't a coincidence. It's just a matter of how it's going to go down and whether or not Robin is actually going to be captured. My original theory was that maybe Blackbeard was going to come in towards the end of Wano once everything is taken care of and everyone's down and out, defeated or tired from their fighting all night, and then he was maybe going to capture Robin and take her away because she can read the poneglyphs. But this all might go down sooner than we think, because Cypher Pole might see this as an opportunity to strike now before Blackbeard or anyone else can really do anything about it, and they might attack Brook. Will Brook be able to fend off the Cypher Pole agents? By himself? I'm not sure. So that will be an interesting development, a character moment for Brook if Robin does get taken from his care, basically. I think that'll give a little bit shine to Brook and maybe wanting to get her back even more and feeling responsible. It could pose an interesting character development moment for Brook, especially with Brook and Robin, two characters that don't really get to interact that much. Or it might be a situation where the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm actually kind of on board with this idea, is that Brook and Robin get closer to the main meeting area of where all the Straw Hats are talking about, and then they get ambushed by the Cypher Pole agents, and Brook is trying to fend them off, but then some nearby Straw Hats hear the fighting and hear what's going on, and they all jump in to defend Robin, and I just think that that would be an awesome moment for the non-monster trio members of the crew to really shine even more than they already have, and protect Robin and show their determination and strength when it comes to protecting one of their own, especially Robin, who's had such the history of feeling like a burden to her crew, which she's totally past that now, but it was brought up with Black Maria's fight, so that theme of, you know, Robin being an important person just because she's Robin could be spotlighted once more if Cypher Pole tried to take her away and the Straw Hats all band together and fight them off. I think that would be really cool, and also that would prevent Robin from actually being taken, which is also a win. So that's a kind of cool moment that might be able to happen. I think that's a really cute idea to really showcase Robin's importance and have the Straw Hats all come together for that big group fight. Maybe the Toby Ropo, like I was saying, maybe they get back up for one last stand, but then the whole Straw Hat crew just gives one last combo attack and knocks them all out for good. Maybe he can also take the Cypher Pole, just add them to the group of people that will be wrecked by the Straw Hats, because, I mean, that would just be awesome, honestly. But at the end of the day, we still don't know what's going to happen with Robin, and I feel like it's just something that's hanging over the plot right now. It's like just waiting for something to happen, because it's definitely going to happen, I think. It's just a matter of when and whether or not Robin is actually going to be taken. Hopefully not. But moving on from all that, the Straw Hats are just trying to reunite with each other, and they're making their way through the chaos of the Beast Pirates. But we zoom out, and it's a really cool panel actually, because they zoom out as they're showing the front entrance of the Onigashima Castle, and then we see smoke and a lot of things happening on the roof, and so we zoom in to Roof Piece, and of course we see Yamato and Kaido clashing still. She is still hanging on, fighting tirelessly against Kaido in her hybrid form. And yes, since her Viver card came out, it is confirmed that Yamato is not transgender or wanting to identify as a man, because, like Kiku's, says man, but she wants to identify as a female, so she's a she. Yamato is cis female and just wants to be Oden. So it was never really about gender. It was a little bit ambiguous, but we do get that confirmed, so I'll be referring to Yamato as she now, because we actually know what's happening now. We get a little bit better idea of what's going through their mind. She's still referred to as he in the chapters, but I feel like we're gonna have a big identity revelation soon with Yamato figuring out that she could be herself rather than just wanting to be Oden. So we'll just be along for the ride for that, because I think that'll be a really important moment for her character. But back to Yamato and Kaido, I love the differences and similarities that are presented here with their fighting styles, where they both have the kanabo, they both have very similar movesets. Yamato has the ringing arrow, which is more of a finesse, you know, kind of elegant move, in my opinion. And then we have Kaido's thunderous arrow, which is much more like upfront brute strength of an attack, and it's a similar attack of a ranged attack, but different still. And throughout this fight, it is clear, as Yamato states, that Kaido is taking this much more serious than any of his previous fights, because Yamato says, like, you're actually trying to kill me here, and Kaido says, yeah. This isn't like previous family squabbles. Now Yamato is fighting as Oden with the rebellion, so I think in Kaido's mind it's a lot more serious now. As she's grown up, she has mentioned that she's gotten stronger by fighting him multiple times, but obviously Kaido has not killed her, and for those confrontations I could see Kaido viewing that as a very childish and more immature rebellion against her father, rather than actually taking the Oden name seriously. So he never took her seriously, you know, he didn't see her worthy to defeat, and she was still his child. But now that's kind of changing because now things are different. The scene here is not just a hopeless child trying to live out some idol and their dreams. Now, Oden's legacy is actually a center point of the entire raid that is involving a bunch of samurai and pirates. This is serious now, this is the real deal, and Yamato immediately jumped in, joined their forces, and is taking advantage of the situation so that she could once again go against Kaido. From Kaido's perspective, I really think that he's seeing this differently. It's like with everything going on, with the raid and everything, on top of it, now Yamato's acting up. I feel like this is where he's like, okay, once and for all, I'm going to squash this idea that you have that you're Oden. Okay, you want to be Oden? Here's the big raid 20 years later. Let's see some Oden action, you know, carrying his name has consequences, and now you want to pretend to be Oden, then I'm going to pretend that you're Oden, and we're gonna do this, you know, so he's not joking around here, he's really, really into this, and might I, you know, point out while I'm talking about this, that the fact that Kaido isn't holding back against Yamato, and Yamato is still hanging tough in there, she's amazing. Yamato for Straw Hat, she needs to be on the crew because this is just badass. But like I said, I really enjoy the dynamic between Kaido and Yamato, and with the addition of her flashback, now we're really getting to see how their dynamic evolved throughout her entire life. Her flashback, though, really had me dying, because is she not the cutest thing in the world? Oh my god. And then to feel the strife and anguish that she's feeling as an 8-year-old, so sad about Oden's death and just hopelessly trying to cope with it in whichever way that she can think of, which unfortunately was taking on the persona of Oden to try and make things right with Wano and rebel against her father. Fortunately didn't go that well, but she's so freaking cute. Oh my god, I would die for baby Yamato. And then to see her reactions to the samurai actually supporting her in her childish fantasy of wanting to be Oden and support him and live out his dream, carry on his will. We'll get more on the daimyo's samurai later, but for now focusing on Yamato's perspective, to have someone who supported her and cared for her, as she mentions later in the chapter, meant so much to her. I mean, they could have just played it off as like a childish whim, like, yeah, I'm not saying that they should have killed her, because of course they're samurai, but they didn't have to go as far as to say, we're going to do our part of that war 20 years from now by ensuring your survival. And then they help her read Oden's logbook and probably make a lot of sense out of it since she was so young, which it was a cute montage with like the light coming down from the cave. Beautiful that they're all reading Oden's logbook, which is amazing. I mean, unfortunately, it's pretty much confirmed that they're all, at least one of them, is dead now, but it's still good to see that more people were able to read Oden's logbook, and I'm excited for us to read Oden's logbook and for that information to be revealed, whatever information it may be. And I also wanted to bring attention to the call out from all the way in Punk Hazard, where Momo was convinced that samurai don't get hungry, and he refused to eat when he was captured with the other children. And we see a beautiful scene here when they hand Yamato the food, and they all sit in solidarity with each other and say, "Samurai do not get hungry." And Yamato's just crying, and she eats it all up, and she's like, "Wow, samurai are so cool. I mean, I'm really hungry, but can I still be a samurai? Can I still eat and be a samurai?" Like, it's adorable to see her reactions with them being so kind-hearted to her. And it was a nice callback to Momo, and then also Tama trying to be a ninja and refusing to admit to her hunger because of honor and everything like that. So that was also a really great scene integrated into the chapter. But their support helped her push through all of these trials that Kaido pushed at her and made sure that she kept fighting for her dream and was just the little bit that she needed to know that she made the right choice, that she's fighting on the correct side, on Oden's side, not Kaido. The ending of this chapter was also amazing because, as we saw in the flashback, it is confirmed that Yamato has Conqueror's Haki because of course she does. Of course she has Conqueror's Haki. She's Kaido's son-daughter, the Oni princess. She has Conqueror's Haki. And it all culminates into this huge clash where they're not touching, which is the advanced armament techniques that Luffy just learned, and now she's already portraying that she can do that well against Kaido. Yamato for Straw Hat. These chapters are just amazing, because this is what, 3 chapters in a row that we get an amazing end panel, like full spread ending, because we had the Zoro and Sanji against King and Queen. Then we had Momo's reveal of his adult dragon form last chapter, and now we have an enormous clash of the Thunder Bagawas, which is also really cool that they both shout Thunder Bagawa as they go in for the clash and they're not touching, and that was what this chapter ended on, which is beautiful. And even right before that, when we come out of the flashback and we see Yamato just radiating the Conqueror's Haki as she's going in for the big hit against Kaido, and she says, just what right did you have to take my freedom? What right did you have to take Wano's freedom? And those lines, just rereading them, just gives me chills of like the emotions that you feel from Yamato, all ending in this giant clash of Conqueror's Haki. Whew, man, I am loving Yamato even more now, and have I mentioned Yamato for Straw Hat? Because I don't think I mentioned that yet. If nothing else, to at least sail with them, because even if she's not going to be an official Straw Hat, I think she needs to sail with Luffy for sure. So in whatever version that will be, Yamato has a sad backstory, she has a will to carry on, including the daimyos. Like, they put their faith in her for the future. She's carrying on Oden's will. Now she's helping Momonosuke, and then Ace too. She wanted to sail with Ace. Like, so many things are beautifully tied together with Yamato's character now that she has to end up on Luffy's ship one way or another. And I'm here for it. But that's all we're gonna say about Yamato for now, for this chapter at least, because now we have to get into the real juicy parts about who was revealed in this chapter. I mean, it was nobody important. Nothing happened. Just a shipwright. Yeah, I'm just quoting now. Ushimaru's, Rayleigh's, and Zoro's, all the badasses who just totally play off who they actually are and what they do, because that's just the essence of badassery. When you hear someone say, nobody important, you know it's somebody important, right? To clarify from my reaction, if you watched it over there, I totally had the timelines confused. It was in my head that Ryuma was Ushimaru's dad, and so Ryuma was a much more recent person, but refreshing my memory and seeing comments, I remembered that Ryuma was actually of a very distant past, and that there's no way that this would have been Ryuma. However, it's Ushimaru, a much more direct relation to possible resident swordsman of the Straw Hats crew? Yeah, it's definitely Ushimaru. It lines up with the fact that the daimyos were captured, staged a rebellion, and were defeated at the hands of Kaido soon after he took over. It lines up with the fact that he looks like Zoro, which we saw Ryuma look like Zoro, which is why I thought that this was Ryuma, and also the bandages looked exactly like Ryuma's bandages when he was a zombie on Thriller Bark, so that's also what messed with my head of thinking it was Ryuma. But it's Ushimaru, and the 2 other daimyos, I'm not sure who the other people are. But, like I said, we can assume that those were the daimyos, and as was confirmed once again in the Viver cards recently, or it might have been the SBS. Both things came out back to back, so I'm not sure which one it was, but it was confirmed that Ushimaru staged a rebellion against Kaido and was killed and defeated there with the other daimyo. So we can assume that that's what happens right after we get out of the flashback, is when they break out of the cave and go against Kaido. That was probably their fate, unfortunately, but they did help Yamato an enormous amount with her mental fortitude and like making sure that she was going down the correct path for when it really mattered 20 years later. But back to Ushimaru, there is a lot of things that need to be confirmed with Zoro's lineage. However, it is still surreal to think that we could have been looking at Zoro's dad here. The main issue I'll first point out is that Zoro's Viver card says that he was born in the East Blue. Now, the Viver card isn't an end-all be-all, and this might have just been a way because Zoro's Viver card, I assume, was published one of the first ones many years ago, and Oda just didn't want to present any opportunity for speculation or spoilers to Zoro's true origin, so he probably just put the East Blue, and Zoro might have actually been born on Wano, because at the time of this flashback, Zoro would have been 1 year old, so it could have been very plausible that Ushimaru had a son, Kaido took over, and he sent off his child with someone, maybe another Shimotsuki, off to the east because they already had relatives of the Shimotsukis in the East Blue, and that was a safe haven place for them to go and get away from Kaido. If the Viver card is something to be taken more seriously, and that is true that Zoro was born in the East Blue, there's still a way that Ushimaru could be a direct relative of Zoro, because Ushimaru, we don't know the age, but he might be Zoro's grandfather, where Ushimaru had a son many years ago, sent him off to the East Blue, and then so Zoro's dad, or mother, had Zoro in the East Blue, and then Ushimaru stayed in Wano, looks a lot like Zoro, still makes sense, and that might be a way that they get around the fact that Zoro was born in the East Blue, but Ushimaru to that day was in Wano and died there. But I'm gonna go with more likely that the Viver cards might just be incorrect information, because then there's also the idea that the Shimotsukis on the East Blue in Shimotsuki Village with Koshiro, maybe a relative there might have given birth to Zoro, but just the visual appearance of Ushimaru compared to like Koshiro, I think it's clear that Ushimaru was the branch that Zoro stemmed from, not Koshiro's, because Koshiro and Kuina have a certain look, Zoro and Ushimaru have a very distinct other look, so I definitely think Ushimaru is somewhat related, whether it's a grandfather or dad. It's still crazy badass to think that this is what we are getting. But just to see the characterization in the short amount of time that we had with Zoro's direct relative, we'll just say dad because that's probably most likely, to see Ushimaru and like the more gentle side of him, but also the more strong side of him, and he had the Shimotsuki crest on his back, of course, so we know it's a Shimotsuki, it's whoever it is, it's Ushimaru. But we see that they, just like Zoro, has that cocky attitude, that grin with the toothpick, very reminiscent of early Wano Zoro, with the toothpick, being a badass, walking around Wano. Yes. It was just really awesome to see that if this is Zoro's relative, we got a really awesome little panel there and how that's tied into Yamato. So I'm now waiting for Yamato and Zoro to meet, because I don't think they have yet, and for Yamato to kind of look at Zoro, maybe a little bit weird, and say, like, you look awfully familiar, you know, and then we can tie that back in with the crew and how she's going to sail with them even more. Oh man, I think it was perfect. I think this flashback really gave us an inside look into Yamato and Kaido's relationship, as well as Yamato's connection with the Shimotsukis, leading all the way back to our Roanoa Zoro. Oh, and one other thing that I mentioned in my reaction, but I just wanted to mention again, that I thought it was a really cool detail about how the swords, you know, they're just some random swords, I assume, that Kaido threw in there for them to fight over the single serving of rice that he put in there. And we see that those blades are very normal blades, everyday blades, nothing special about them. But when Ushimaru picks them up and goes to slash at Yamato's chains, it turns into a black blade, which also I got carried away with thinking it was Shusui because it had a very similar blade design to it. But no, that was just because it was being turned into a black blade with armament hockey, and then we see later that same sword is on the ground looking normal again, like he never even used it. So that was a really cool small detail, but I had to point that out because it's super cool, because of everything Kawamatsu said, everything that's been leading up to this. I'm excited to get more Zoro information, and I hope we get that more next chapter. Or maybe not next chapter, because next chapter maybe could be Big Mom and Kid-in-Law, but eventually I am excited to see how Zoro fits in with the Shimotsukis exactly. Was Ushimaru his dad? Where was Zoro born? Was he in the East? Was it his grandfather? There's a lot of questions that need answering, but that's all we get for this chapter. So again, make sure that you like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed my review. I enjoyed this chapter a lot, so let me know how well you enjoyed the chapter. What answers do you need? What are your thoughts on Zoro's connection to Ushimaru? And what you think about Yamato joining the Straw Hats, because it's basically set in stone at this point. So let me know below, and yeah! We once again are spoiled with no break next week, so check me out on Twitch if you want to check out my reaction to this chapter. I'll be streaming live on Friday at 12 Eastern Standard Time when the new chapter comes out, so come follow me over there if you want to hang out and talk about the chapter live over there. Also on Twitter for more anime, gaming, and One Piece content. But until then, have a great day, follow your dreams, and check me next time. Bye! We got Beppo in this chapter. Yes, we did. Yes, we did.